Welcome, I'm Melissa Shields. I'm one of your ed tech coaches in the Palmdale School District. And today we are going to be talking about an introduction to Google Forms. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about form appearance, how you can kind of adjust the way your form looks. A lot of people like to personalize what their quizzes look like. There are several different question types, so we're going to go over some of the basic question types and how to insert images, how to make it a quiz, and that includes looking at an answer key and how it grades, and then how you would share a quiz in Google Classroom. I decided to do this training simply because a lot of teachers were coming to me and they were expecting it to behave like Google Docs or Google Slides, and Forms is a little bit different. So I want to show you how to do that so you can access those results. And it says sharing with colleagues time permitting, but that seems to be a need. So I'm actually going to make sure that I cover that, and hopefully we won't go over. So there seems to be one question before we get started. The teacher, oh, the Bitmoji. Oh, okay. I can talk about the Bitmoji too. I'll talk about that real quick because you guys will see it on our screen sometimes. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'm going to go ahead and escape out of this. And if you look at my little Bitmoji character here on the right, I have an extension, and I do believe you can see up at the top, because I'm showing my whole screen, is at the very top, this little is an extension, Bitmoji extension. I have the app on my phone and my iPad and here, and you can adjust what your character looks like. So if you just go to bitmoji.com or Bitmoji extension, you can go and create it, and by having the extension, it allows me to find anything I want, and I can drag it into forms or presentations. And there's a lot of other cool things you can do with the Bitmoji, but that'll be for another day. So anyway, and we can talk about that at the end. Okay, so our agenda. So first of all, let me talk to you about what a Google form is. This is a tool that we can use for creating surveys, assessments, and check-ins. Is probably the check-ins and the assessments is probably what you're using it for, or you want to be using it for right now. But the great thing about it is it's this form that can be tied to a spreadsheet. So if you want to collect data, you can have your students fill out information on this form, and then it'll attach to a spreadsheet, and then you can filter through that spreadsheet any way you want. And we can do a class, if you indicate that in the post survey, if you're indicated on a class on how to at least filter even a short 15-minute pop-up, or schedule time with me, we can talk about how to filter a spreadsheet, Google Sheets, and be able to look at the information. So, okay, this will be here. I'm going to go live with a form, but the reason I shared this whole presentation with you is because each one of these are links to examples of different kind of forms. I believe Stuckey owns most of those, but you should be able to still see them and see different ways you can use it. But now I'm going to take you through a form. So escape out of there. And I'm going to start you off from how I start off, which is I usually start off in my Drive, because my Drive is my filing cabinet. And instead of me making a form and then figuring out where it has to go later, I start with where I want my form to be. And then that way I don't have to move it later or figure out where I put it. So because I'm doing a training, I'm on my training folder, and then I have a forms folder within my training folder. So I'm going to start inside of there, where a lot of those examples you may see are here. And I'm going to go new, down to more, and over to forms. So I can do a blank form or from a template. I'm going to go with a blank form. The templates, you are welcome to click on that and explore that at your own leisure, but I'm going to start with a blank form. And remember, this is recorded, so I wouldn't try to do this along with me. I would just watch right now and then go back later, and then you can watch the video again after Stuckey puts it up on the pop-up webinars to look at later. So when you first click on forms, this is what you get. I'm still sharing, right? Yes. Okay. So you'll see up here, it says untitled form, untitled form. Believe me, the first thing you want to do is name it, because if you don't, good luck trying to find it. You're going to have a list of a whole bunch of things called untitled, and you're never going to get there. So we will call this forms training form. Hey, why not? Now I've typed it here, but you'll notice in the top left, it still says untitled form. Now that I've typed the title in, I just have to click here and it pops up. It's like magic. And you'll notice all changes are saved in Drive. I don't have to hit save. Now, unlike Google Docs and Google Slides, anything I do here, yes, this is the same as Google Docs and Slides, where if I type it here, it saves here. That the all changes saved in Drive. However, if I change any of the settings of my form, I will have to save it, okay? So I'm gonna start with, on the agenda says forms appearance, so this is what we're gonna start with. And if you look over, if you notice it comes in its standard purple. If I come over to this little painter's palette, it says customize theme. So I click on this and I have options. I can come down here and just change the theme color. I can make it light blue, I can make it gray. I can click this plus and find any color I want. Well, it's already purple. Let's go with some weird teal. I can go into a shade of teal, add that, and then notice whatever color I choose, it also gives me some options for a background color to help go with the theme. So I can make it a little bit darker. I can make it completely lighter. I like the darker one. And then I'm skipping the choose image right now. I'll come back to that. Font style. I have only 4 options for font. If there is a way to get other fonts on here, I don't know about it yet, but I can find out. I can change the font to be decorative, which I would never do that with students because that's hard to read. Formal, I'm a big fan of the serif, so, but then there's also this playful one. So you can just kind of see, we'll leave it there, that's fine. And then back up here on the choose image, I can click on choose image and it takes me to some pre-made forms, pre-made images. I can sort them. I can choose different, like, you know, we just had Easter, some bunnies. Let's see, there's all sorts of, there's Halloween. We've got night out, sports, games. I wouldn't use something like this. Not with your students, not a good idea. Oh, look, popcorn, that looks fun. I'll insert a popcorn theme, why not? You'll also, and then you notice it changed my theme color to match the background a bit. And I could say, nope, I want it more red and I want the background color darker. Again, you can still change it. You'll notice I could have also uploaded it if I wanted to. I could upload something from my Google Drive. I could go into photos and search. You see, I had other banners that I've created in the past. So you could upload some of those as well. And just check right here. I got a quick question. Oh, so how you would create your own, like if you wanted to create your own header, first of all, let me recommend there's a website on Facebook, a group called Teach with Tech, and they actually have an entire thread devoted to headers, Google Classroom headers and form headers and stuff like that. And you can add those, like my little Bitmoji character. I do have one where I've created a Google Classroom banner. If you just Google, you know, theme banner for forms, you might be able to find a template that it would be done in Google Drawings. So we can focus on that on another time. If we want to do a Google Drawings class, then we can show you how to create your own banners. That could be a fun class. So I've changed my theme. So I've got it all set here. I have my title. In here, I can give it a description. And I think since that's basically all I was going to show you on the changing appearance is the different text and how you can add banners. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the different question types that are in here and some suggestions, best practices with it. Google Forms, if you are using Google Classroom, it will allow you, let's say you're using the form to make a quiz and you are making it a multiple choice quiz or a true false or something where the quiz can be graded for you so you don't have to do the work. It will integrate with Google Classroom in that whatever grades that if you have it automatically grade, it can save those grades and import them to Google Classroom. And I'm not talking about that too much other than to say that you can have the quiz already grade for you. I'll talk about that again at the end when we go over the quiz bits. But otherwise, I taught middle school and I had, 6 periods a day, and sometimes I had different grade levels. So I found out that if I just did forms like this, I didn't want to have to make a new form for every group of kids. So what I ended up doing was making sure that my first 3 questions, what's your first name? What's your last name? And then for my case, what period are you in? Some of you might be teaching at a school where you are sharing students with other teachers. My class is the blue group and her class is the green group. So I could have a drop-down question instead of what period are you in, I could have the question of which is your group, or choose your group. So here I go typing, and you'll notice this. On my first question, I think it said untitled question. I'm just gonna write first name, and notice that the Google form already assumes that there's going to be a short answer. It's a little bit intuitive. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to click on this little 2 pieces of paper, and it's a duplicate. And I'm just going to change the word first to last name. So those are some short answers. Oh, I forgot something very important here. I'm making this required because while you may be better than me and have all of your students' ID numbers memorized, I do not. So even my fake students, and I only have like 8 of those. So I'm making those required because I will not be able to tell from their email address. And I'm going to add a new question. And this could be, let's imagine I share one partner teacher. And so I could say, which group are you? Or choose your group. And I'm going to make it a drop-down question. So you saw my short answer. What are my other options? We've got short answer, paragraph, multiple choice. The radio dial just means there's only one answer choice. Check boxes if I want more than one answer choice. Like if I say, name 3 ways somebody can do something, and I list them 10 ways and they have to choose the right 3, then I'll use check boxes so that they can choose multiple answers. Just be warned, if you do that on a quiz, Google Forms does require them to get all of the check boxes. So if they have to have 2 things checked and they only check 1, it will mark it completely wrong, and you will have to go back in and manually adjust that. But that's easy to do, but just so you know. So I'm doing a drop down in this case, and we'll call this one blue group. And this one we'll call red group. Now let's go with purple group, because why not? And make that required. And I'm going to show you right now what that looks like. I can come up here to this. If you ever want to see what it's going to look like to the students, you come up to this little eyeball. That's the preview. So for a student, they'll have the header up here, forms training form, first name. The little red dot means that it's required. It will not let them move on until they've answered that. Last name. So if I try to click here, or if I type in here and I skip it and I come down to here, I'll get this, it's a required question, and it won't let me move on. And which group are you? And here's where my drop down is. So they can choose. So in my case, I had first, second, third, fourth, fifth period. They can choose and so forth. So close that. So there's my group question. Now at this point, I can make a whole new section. I'm not going to go into too much detail about why you would use a section, other than to say, sometimes people like to shuffle the answers when you're sitting in a classroom when there's a kid next to each other. That way the questions appear in different places. So if I'm on number 12, his number 12 doesn't look the same as my number 12. It'll be the same on the teacher form, but when the kids look at it, it might look different. Well, they're not actually numbered, they're just the next question in line, but just so you know. So if you have that in the same, if you don't have sections, then what can happen is first name might be the very last question they see, because if you have it shuffling it, I'll show you how it shuffles. If you have it shuffling it, that means all of the questions on the form can go wherever. But if you have them in sections, they only shuffle within their sections. So I could add a section here, and maybe the first question is which group are you? And then the next question is first name, and then the last is last name. Or the first question could be last name, and then which group are you, and then first name. It doesn't matter on my form when I look at it, it will be in the order I created it. So I'm not going to add a section right now. I'll come back and add another question. So we're talking about question types. We did multiple choice. I'm just going to show you the checkboxes. It's kind of the same thing here where they can, I can put my answer choices here, and I can also do add other, which will give them a space to write something. Keep in mind that anytime somebody writes something, that you're going to have to go back in. It's a constructed response, so you will have to go back in and manually grade that if you decide to make it a quiz. Okay, so we've got checkboxes, and right here, since we're doing it, I'm still going to be talking about question types, but I am going to talk about inserting images. Google Forms has now updated in the past year or two where you can, instead of having images separate, I can just go ahead and add an image into the form. But if I shuffle it, that image could land anywhere. And if I want the image to stay with the actual question, I'm going to need to insert it in the question. I can either insert it here. So if maybe my question is, what is your favorite pizza topping? Hopefully I spelled that all correctly. I don't see any red lines. Sorry, I have to be accurate here. What is sorry. Okay. What is your favorite pizza toppings? Because I'm making it checkboxes so they can choose more than one. Now, if I want to insert an image, I can upload something I have on my computer. I can use the camera if I'm going to hold up something or myself. If I know a URL, but here's the easiest thing is I can pull it from my Google Drive if I have a list of photos. But the easiest is Google Image Search for me. I can type in anything I want. So pizza, all the images of pizza, and these, just like the other Google products, it will pull from copyright-free images, so I can use any of these. So maybe I'll pick one that's got lots of toppings on it and insert my image here. It's taking a minute to load the image. Take a sip of coffee. Nice. See, it doesn't just happen to you. It happens to me as well. Let's try another one. Maybe it didn't like that one. We'll try this one. And it could be because of internet, who knows? Let's see if this one works. There we go. So it loads the image of the pizza. These three little dots here allow me to, I can align it, or I can say, no, I don't really want that, or I can even add a caption. Yummy pizza, my favorite, whatever. In each of the options, I can add images as well. So when I used this was, I think I had a quiz on cells. And just to make it accessible to everyone, I would have like the word mitochondria, and then I would have a little picture of a mitochondria. I can do the same thing here. I can add an image, Google image search, type in pepperoni, add this image. There you go. It'll add the image to that picture, a small one, and so on and so forth. So you'll see that this is a real great way to incorporate that UDL so that it's accessible to all students, especially your littles who maybe are not able to read quite yet, but you still have it, the words there for them, and then the images and so forth. So I'm not going to keep going, and I can make this a required question or not. Let's say I mess up on this question. What am I going to do with it? I can just come down to this little trash can and delete the question. But this way, putting the images in here allows me, no matter how I shuffle this, these images will stay with these pictures. And even if I choose the option in a minute, I'll show you the quizzes. If I choose the option to shuffle the answer choices, the images will still stay with the correct words. So that's kind of a helpful tool there. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to go on to adding another question. So we have multiple choice, checkboxes, there's a drop down. Not going to get into this now, but if you are creating something, for those of you who may be a little bit more advanced, or you're just comfortable with it, why not? You like clicking around and you want to see what it does. If you choose file, upload as a question, it will allow students to maybe you have them doing something and then you have them record themselves, or you have them take a picture of something. Maybe they take a picture of their work or whatever. You can have them upload that file from their drive. And in fact, I'll just go ahead and do it. So if you see this, it says files will be uploaded to the form owner's Google Drive. So the students, it'll be uploaded to your drive, just so you know, that image will be shared into your drive. And they, of course, will have to be signing into Google in order to do this. So you want to be careful that, you know, they know, this is the warning, is to share it only with people you trust, because whatever image they upload goes into your drive, and there it is in your drive. So that's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that for right now. But this might be something, I know some people, like maybe PE teachers, or not PE teachers, maybe dance or music. Maybe the students have to record a piece of them playing their instrument, then they can upload their file, and then the teacher can see them playing their instrument. This is one way to do that. They can upload that file into the form. Okay, linear scale, multiple choice, and checkbox grid. These are for, well, the linear scale you'll see was on the pre-survey, where I asked you, how comfortable are you? 1 being not comfortable at all, 4 being I could teach others, or very comfortable, whatever I said. Multiple choice grid and checkbox grid. There are some examples. I'm not going to go into that on today's training, but you can go check those out, or we can do it in a separate training. And one question that I like to add, especially for those of you doing a daily check-in, is the date. It's a question I can say, you know, today's date. And by putting a date calendar in and make this required, if students are filling out the same form every day, instead of me having to post a new form every single day, I could just put this form in my Google Classroom in my daily check-in and let the kids choose the date from a drop-down. So I'll show you what that looks like. In fact, I'm going to move this up to the top, because I don't, you see these 6 little dots here? When my cursor becomes a four-way arrow cross thing, I can click it and I can drag it up, and I will put it above name. So just to show you what that looks like, I go again to the preview, and here's today's date. I click on this and a calendar drops down, so the kids can choose the date. Now, how do I why would I even put the date when it does a timestamp? Maybe you're thinking, I know it does a timestamp. Why would I even put the date? Because on a Google spreadsheet, when it does a timestamp, it's an actual timestamp. It's not just the date, it's the date and the hours and the minutes and the seconds, and it's a little bit harder to filter through that. But if you actually have a question that says today's date, when you go to the spreadsheet form, it will allow you to, you can filter by date. So that might be a helpful way to do something. Okay, I am going to pause right here. I have been talking for a minute, and I do see I have 2 questions. So I'm going to check the chat real quick. Okay, oh, a multiple choice question. Okay, and your co-host and the student uploads a file, and I delete it from my drive. Will it get deleted from the teacher's file? Okay, so you don't co-host a form. You can share the form, but whoever owns the form is the one who will get an uploaded file. If you are a collaborator on it, you will see it and have ability to edit it, but the person who owns the form is the one who will get the file. I'm going to go back to the multiple choice question, and how I set the date again is that, so the date, let me go back to my editable version. The date, it's one of the question choices. So short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, and all the way down at the bottom, there is a date question. By clicking on that, it drops in a calendar that the students will be able to click on the calendar. They won't even have to literally type the date in. They can just pick the date and click on it. And multiple choice, yes, you're right. I did not go over multiple choice, so I will come down here. Let me change this to a multiple choice question. And I can say, what is the best pizza topping? So if there's a correct answer, so I type my question, I can still have the images in here, but now you'll notice that it's the circle checkbox, the radio dial instead of the square. And I can still click on here and say, you know, Okay, so I can add my options this way, okay, and make that required. So that's a multiple choice question. Okay, and the daily check is expecting short responses or essay-like response. Okay, so I will show a daily check-in form, and then you guys can decide to do with what you want with it. But keep in mind that if you do have short answer, like, you know, put your name, they're going to be typing in what they're typing in, and this form will not be able to grade written responses unless you want it to be exactly a certain way and exactly like with the correct spelling or misspelling or capital letters or not. It's not a really great tool for spelling tests, just because there's a whole other back end thing you have to do to turn off the spell check. And I think students can still turn it on anyway. I'm not too sure. I don't recommend it for spelling tests. If you were going to do a spelling test with this, I would maybe have multiple choice and have, you know, 2 or 3 words spelled wrong and 1 spelled correctly, and the kids choose it. But again, you'd have to turn off the thing on your end because the ones that are spelled wrong are going to be underlined in red. So, you know, there you go with that. Okay, I'm going to look one more time at the chat, and then I'm going to move on. Oh, the jalapenos, the tilde, I'm on a Mac. So that's an option on my computer. So sorry, that's not a separate thing. It's just my own computer has that. Okay. How you can have students sign in with ID. Okay, so let's talk about making it a quiz and how the kids can only sign in once. For example, you want this to be a one-time quiz. They're not going to go back and take it over again. It's not a check-in. I'm still going to talk about check-ins, but this is all in the quiz format. So again, if you have any questions on the appearance, question types, or inserting the images, go ahead and drop that in the chat, and I'll look at that part at the end. I'm moving on to making it a quiz. So if you look on the top right here, there's a settings cogwheel way up here on the top right. So I'm going to click on that. And you'll notice it says collect email addresses. I always check this because it's one way that I can make sure that only Palmdale School District is accessing it. So if a student tells me, I tried to take the quiz, but I couldn't see your quiz and I couldn't log in, maybe they're logging in with their parent email. They didn't switch to the student ID. It's one way I have of knowing for sure whether or not they're even logging in properly. So I don't need response receipts, but I do want to collect their email addresses, and I'm okay because I have them put their name on the quiz, so I don't have to memorize their student IDs. And so this is the one that you want to look at, is this limit to 1 response. On a daily check-in, I would not check that box because I don't want to have to keep adding that quiz every single day. You've got so much else to do than add this quiz to your Google Classroom every single day and have a list of check-ins every single day. It's crazy. So I'm leaving that unchecked. But if this is a quiz that I'm going to offer between the hours of 3 and 4 or whatever, well, I wouldn't really do that now, but that's just me. If I want them to have only 1 chance at it, limit to 1 response, I don't care, because honestly right now, you know, you cannot control whether they're looking at other things. This will lock them in, but that doesn't mean that they don't have another computer right next to them that's helping them look up the answers. So keep that in mind. Can't worry about what's in your control and not what's out of your control. So, but if I do want to limit their response, I only want to know 1 time, I click this box, and then when they're done, that's it. It'll just say thank you and whatever messages I have in there. When it's not checked, they can go back in and it'll say submit another response. Like if they did something and they go, oh, I wasn't thinking, and they want to go back, they can go back in and immediately re-edit it. How will you know which one is the right one? They might email you or send you a private message in the Google Classroom and say, oh, I made a mistake, but you know, I did it again and the second one's the right one. I'm sorry, I forgot to upload my picture, or I forgot to whatever. And then you'll know that they're time-stamped. So again, if you see something that happened at 2:22 and then you see another one that happened at 2:26, you'll know which was the most recent. You also have options to allow them to edit it after they submit it. So if they make a mistake, if you do want it to be open to them fixing or correcting their mistake, as long as they keep it on the screen, they can go back and edit after they submit it. And if you want them to see summary charts and responses, that's up to you. I don't usually mess with that. Presentation, if you want them to have a progress bar, a little thing at the bottom that lets them know you're 25% of the way through. I don't know if it shows numbers, but it'll show a little bar, how far they've completed it. You can shuffle the question order. If you choose this, remember, without sections, first name could be the very last question they get. So keep that in mind if they shuffle it. And again, see this show link to submit another response? That's because I don't have it limited to one response. If I check this, that should disappear. Yeah, see how this is grayed out now? They cannot submit another response because I have that grayed out. But I'm gonna leave that open. Now, quizzes. So here's where we're gonna go into the quiz section. If I make this a quiz, I can lock them on the Chromebooks. How well does that, I'm assuming that would still work even with distance learning. But again, if they've got another computer open next to them, what are you gonna do? If you are doing just multiple choice or just checkbox where the computer, where Google can grade it for you, if you have release grade immediately after each submission, it'll let them know that you got that one right or you got that one wrong. Or at the very end, it'll say, you know, you got 8 out of 10 questions correct. Your score is 8 out of 10. But if you have any constructed response, you do not want that because it'll give them a false fail. You may have 5 points of the quiz is multiple choice, and then the other 5 points is the essay, and it'll tell them they could have gotten them all right and say you failed, you know, you got a 5 out of 10, you failed. Well, it won't say you failed, but it'll have the 5 out of 10, which they won't be happy with, and then you're like, well, then you have to start explaining, well, I haven't finished grading it. So I would turn that on later for manual review, and you can give it to the kids later. They'll see it later. And then decide, do you want them to see what questions they missed? It'll tell them right after they do it. Do you want them to see the correct answers? It will tell them right after they do it. And do you want them to see point values? For me, I always turn these off, but I left point values on because if I have a checkbox, I want my kids to know that if something is worth 2 points, they need to have 2 answers in there. That's just another way I let them know. But my kids always knew that, you know, checkbox meant more than one choice as an answer. So those are the settings for if you wanted to make it a quiz. So I'll hit save there. Now, because I've now made it a quiz, right? I chose that option. I went to quizzes and I said, make this a quiz. Because I did that, now if you look at my question choices, if I click on a question, you'll see that this one's highlighted right now. I have an answer key. So when I click on answer key, I now can adjust how many points this is worth. This is worth 1 point. I can make it 1 billion points if I want to. I'm going to make it just 1. And I have to choose what's the right answer. So I select the right answer and I'm done with that question. Okay, this one, if I don't, like this one there's no right answer, blue group or purple group. I leave the answer key as 0 points. Same thing with their name, 0 points. Okay, but I can click on answer key. So you'll see if I have any other answer other than, if there was something you wanted them to specifically write and they write it any other way, and I'm talking about capitalization or a space or a wrong character, it will mark it as incorrect. So keep that in mind. And so that's basically making it a quiz. If I've forgotten any other quiz questions. I'm going to show you about what it looks like on the grading end too. But I want to show you a couple other features in here real quick, just super quick. I can import questions. I have the option to import questions. We can talk about that maybe later during a second class if you want to. Adding title and description. I'm just showing you the menu bar. So here's where you add questions. If you like a question, like I like this question, and my next question is going to be what's the second best pizza topping, but I want to leave everything else the same, I could just come down here again and duplicate the question and then change it and leave the rest of it. So I don't have to keep writing the same question over and over again. and it'll keep the format. I can also, if I want to, you'll see that there's a video and there's the little YouTube symbol. If I connect that, I can search YouTube. I should say pizza makers. So I can search YouTube for a video. It'll take that little piece of video, 10 minutes, here's a 5 minutes. I can select it and I can drop it into, and this is just the video, but keep in mind, again, if I put a video in and then I shuffle my questions, that the video could come here and the questions could be way down at the bottom, or vice versa, the questions. Find the video in this, you don't want to do that. That would make them nuts. Sorry, I have to take a little sip here. I'm already talking too much. Okay, I'm going to pause and look at the chat just real quick. Resubmit the Google form. How do they resubmit, and will their previous answers show? Yes. So the reason they can resubmit the form is because that option of limit to one response, you notice it didn't default to being checked. As soon as I click make it a quiz, this was well, actually that's over here. When I first came into settings, this was not checked. If I want them to only submit one time, I have to manually come in here and check it. Okay, and I still have to talk about the daily check-in. So I'm gonna real quick pop over to my daily check-in. I shared this with some people. I'm just gonna come over here. Daily check-in. So I made a daily check-in quiz, and I tested it out. I'm gonna show you what it looks like from this end. First and last name, today's date, how are you feeling? I entered some little images that I just did a Google search on, like the way I showed you. Here's a long answer text. Do you have anything to tell me? This I'm gonna have to go in and read. Were you able to find all your work? What questions do you have? Okay, so just one more time, I'm gonna go into the preview mode, and I'm gonna answer this as a student. Oops, Fifi, Fido. And today's date, what is today's date? And how am I feeling? I am feeling great. Anything to tell me? I learned how to skate. Who knows? Yes, I found all my work. I'm an overachiever. I finished it. Nothing. I got this. Okay, and I submit. Now, do you see how it says submit another response? Okay, maybe while she was typing this and hit submit, her little brother came up and whacked her on the head, and now she's not feeling so good. She wants me to know she can come in here and submit another response. Could they possibly submit 17 responses a day? Yeah. But if they're submitting 17 responses a day, I'll probably call that child and say, hey, what's going on? You know, why are you submitting 17 a day? How about if we don't do that? Or let me talk to your mom and let's see, you know, maybe you need some help with something. Are you frustrated? So you can have those conversations. So that's what it looks like on that end. Now, let me show you what it looks like on teacher end. So when you, because I'm going to talk about Google Classroom next. When you, guys, this might go over 12 o'clock. If you have to leave out at 12 o'clock, it's okay. You can go back and look it up. If that's your lunch break or whatever, you can go back and look at the videos later and then find the piece that went over. So I apologize if it goes over. There's just a lot of stuff with forms. So feel free to leave out whenever you need to. Okay, responses. So here's all the questions, but if I click on responses, I can see who's responded. This is an overall summary, right? You see in the top, I've got summary, question, and individual. I can see who's responded. I can look at the dates of those responses. And then it gives me some charts. How are you feeling? Overall, my kids seem to be doing great. There's some that are doing okay. Do you have anything to tell me? Here's all your work for today. What questions do you have? So there's those. But if you look over here, I can, okay, I'm sorry. I can also do individual. So I can look at how each person, but you see it just puts them by their email address. So it's a little bit hard. I'd have to, if I want to look at this, and you're thinking, this is great, but how do I see it in Google Classroom? I'll show you. But if I want to see all of the responses in one place, I come over here to this view responses and sheets. I've already created one. You'll see here on this one, and I can see the answers here. Because I added that date question, let me show you this real quick. I can create a filter. If I select a column, whatever column I want, I can go by their first and last name. I can go by date. I can go by, I want to know people who aren't, how their people are feeling. So I'll go by date. And I come over to this little funnel looking thing. And I click create a filter. It creates this little, it turns the column green, the one that I selected, and it creates this little triangle made of lines. And if I click on that, I can decide how I sort by. And I think, well, I'm going to clear it all. I only want to see the things that were submitted on the 21st. And I go, okay, that's the only one that was submitted on the 21st. Well, what happened to the rest of them? How do I get those back? Come back over here, I select all, come down to okay, and I see them all again. There they are. So I didn't get rid of any of it, and I can turn that filter off. So for those who are on my other question, if I look at my other form, so I'm going to X out of here, come back to my form, cancel that. And I don't have any responses to this one right now, but when I do, I have my spreadsheet over here. When I click on my spreadsheet, I have an option. Can I create a brand new one? Or can I connect it to a spreadsheet I already have? Maybe you did a form one day and you changed your form, but you want to still keep it all on the same form. I can, instead of creating a brand new one for this new form that I've created, maybe I added some questions or removed some, I can select an existing spreadsheet. So I'll hit select existing. And it'll pull up anything I've recently opened. So let's say I want to connect it to, I guess I'll connect it to my daily check-in form that I was just on. And I hit select, connecting it to my daily check-in. So it's linking it to the spreadsheet. Here's my daily check-in. Now, if you notice over here, this is where my daily check-in is connected to. And on this sheet, on this tab, this is where the forms training form is connected to. And you'll notice that here are my questions, which group are you? Whereas on this one, that was not a question. So as my students fill this in, I can do that same filtering thing here so that it filters to blue or green. And if I have two groups of students, my class and my partner teacher's class, I can filter just by group. And I can also share this form with my partner teacher so that she can filter with blue because she knows hers is the blue group, and I can filter with green because I know green's my group. And I can look at it this way. It doesn't change the original form, it just changes how I see it. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a minute, a couple questions. Can I copy, can I copy a knowledge pretest that has a statement and answer choice as true, false, rather than type it from scratch? Yes. And if you're using a Chromebook, you won't be able to view the YouTube video. No, you should. The YouTube videos, YouTube's open for the entire district. It wouldn't, I do believe that you wouldn't be able to search out a video as long as you don't own it and not have the permissions shut off, like so that only you can view it. If it's from YouTube, because it's open to the whole school district, it depends on the settings. Some YouTube videos are not visible to students because of the settings on the YouTube end, and they wouldn't be able to see them anyway, but you as a teacher still will get to see them because it's not limited to adults. So that's something to look at. Okay, so there's a couple other questions. I'll get to those in just a minute. So I'm gonna come off of this daily check-in Google response form and talk about sharing it in Google Classroom and how you share that in there. So I have my form. It's all good. I am on my daily check-in or whatever form I'm on. So I'm gonna go to my Google Classroom and let me go to ClassLink, open up my classroom. I thought I had a classroom tab open. Apparently I do not. Come to my fake classwork. Okay, so I'm going to assign that quiz to my Google Classroom. I hit create. I am not hitting quiz assignment because if I do that, it will open up a blank form and I have to create the form there. I don't want to do that. So I'm coming to assignments, and this is my forms practice or whatever I want to call it. type all my directions here, and I'm going to add, I have the option to add from Google Drive. So I go and pull up my form, and I'm going to add this forms training form and add it. It will add the view copy. And you'll see here, it says grade importing. If I just wanted to collect those grades and it's all multiple choice, I could choose that. I'm not going to because I'd rather look at it on a spreadsheet. You can also decide here, is this form for everybody or not for everybody? That's Google Classroom's your points. And I highly recommend whatever you do in Google Classroom, give it a topic. That way you can move them around. If you don't, you may end up having a whole list of things and you can't move them around. And after so many, it scrolls off and leaves you a little button that says more. And if you don't notice that right away because it's gray and tiny and almost invisible as you're scrolling the screen, you're going to think that your assignments have disappeared. So I highly recommend that you use topics. So I'm going to put this in this week's topic, and I'm going to assign it. So I put it here, forms practice. And now I'm going to go log on as my, let me go grab my fake student. So I go to my student, and when he goes to the classroom, this is what he sees. Goes into the fake class, classwork. Here's the forms practice. So he goes to click on it and can enter the date. Now, do you see how the whole calendar opens up? Who is this, Pluto? Could he go back and say he took this on April 2nd? Absolutely. It's still going to give it a timestamp and tell me the correct day. The only reason I have this date selector here is so that if I want to sort it, it'll be easier for me to sort it than using the timestamp. Okay, first name is Pluto, last name, Fido. I'm in blue group, and the best pizza topping is pepperoni because I don't have any other images. And what is, oh, I never changed the question. Okay, I'll pick cheese. I didn't add images for that one either. And there's a video I can watch, and then I hit submit. Now, because I left it to submit another response, he could do this, or he can go back to the assignment and look at it, and he can see it. Because it's a form, it's not like Google, here's where it's not like Google Docs and it's not like slides. I don't see any work attached. So I'm like, oh, okay, but I see that I turned it in because I hit submit. Now I can unsubmit it, whatever, it's not gonna change things. I can add a note to my teacher. I messed up, I meant to put something on number 3, whatever, and send that to the teacher. Now, how does that look for on the teacher's end? When I go to look at my quiz, okay, it's not going to be, so if I click on the assignment, oops, sorry, I'm going to view the assignment, and I see who it's all assigned to. Okay, but if I click here, nothing happens. It's not like Google Docs where the doc is right there and I can click and open it up. Okay. From here, if I'm looking at my instructions here, I can click on this link. That's fine. I can click on anywhere. I can go into my drive and find the form. It's the one form, but as the teacher, if you look in the far right here, there's a little pencil to edit this form. So I click on that. I'm not really editing the form, but what I want to do is look at those responses. So this is how I access my results, is I can look in here. If I have a whole bunch of kids, I've got 60 kids, I'm not going to look at it this way individually. Do I want to scroll through every single one? I could, but that's kind of a pain. So what I would do is I would go to that Sheets. Remember, I saved it in Sheets, and here's my answer. He put the wrong date down right here, but it was time-stamped on the 27th. I just don't want to try and filter by hours, minutes, and seconds. I'd rather filter by the date, and I can easily come in here and change this for him. I can say, no, Pluto, you silly child. That was done on the 27th. And then I can sort by that date. So here's where you're always going to go to your form to look at it. You're not going to see it in Google Classroom. I'm not going to see it here, my student work. Okay, I can't click on anything here. I have to actually go to the form and then go to my version by clicking on this edit pencil. So I've got a couple questions because the last thing I have to cover is sharing with colleagues, and then we can go over. Okay, students in order by last name. You can filter that on the, am I able to select to put students in ABC order by last name? You can filter the spreadsheet to be able to look at them in that way. You won't move them around. You can just filter it so that you see it that way. And my colleague made a form that I reposted, but I can't get to a page that says responses. So if the teacher, if your colleague made the form, that's their form. You're not going to see it. If you just copy, if you have their form and use their form, all of your answers are going onto their spreadsheet. So I'm going to show you how to share a form with other teachers so that they can have their own form and they can edit it however they want. And this is the same thing about copying a test and then the answer choice. So how I found the responses again. Okay, so I'm going to go over that at the end just in case, because you can go back and watch the video to show how I found the responses when that's reposted. But I want to show you about sharing this form with the colleagues. So here I am on the form that you take the test on. I'm on the view form. If you look up here, it says view form. This is the one that the students will get. If I want to share it, if I have this amazing form and someone goes, hey, how can I get a copy of that form? Then what I do, like for example, my daily check-in, okay? Here I am, I'm on the editable version, right? I can change the questions around. I can make them required or not. If everybody says, hey, I want this daily check-in, this is awesome. Then what I do is I come up to the very top, this URL. So I'm gonna highlight that. This is only on the editable form, not the one the kids take, that's the view form, the editable one. It'll say edit at the top here. And I'm gonna come up here in the URL and click on it, and instead of the word edit, I'm going to delete the word edit and type the word copy. Then I'm going to select that whole thing, Control C to copy it, and I'm going to actually paste this one in the chat, so if anybody wants to copy it, they can make a copy of it. So I'm going to go to chat. I'm going to paste it as soon as I scroll to the top here. I'm going to paste this in the chat, copy and return. If you click on that, not yet though, because I don't think I've shared the form with everybody else. There's like a two-parter. If I copy, well, this one actually might be already shared, but let me show you the other part to that. Is if I go to daily check-in, and here was that quiz, and I right-click it, I have to make sure that there's a shareable link. So if this is here, nobody's going to be able to make a copy of it. It's going to say you need permission. So if I do that, and anybody clicks that link, they're going to get a window that says, would you like to make a copy of daily check-in? And then you do it, and it makes a copy, and it's all yours, brand new, with no spreadsheet attached. You can change the answers any way you want, and it doesn't mess up my form. So if you want to share a form with your colleagues, you would do it that way. If you just say, hey, you and I have the same kids, I will just add you as a collaborator on my form. You do that up here to add collaborators. When I click on add collaborators, it will let me put somebody's name here. If I make Jerry a collaborator, she can edit and change my form. I might not want her to do that. If I don't want her to do that, I can, oh, I don't think that's, yeah, that's the only option is can't edit. Yeah, because I'm making her an editor, collaborator. If I want her to be able to change it, that's fine. But she will not be able to have her own spreadsheet. She'd have to just access mine. I could make her a collaborator on the form, but if I don't give her permission for the spreadsheet, she won't be able to access the results. So that won't be helpful to her. So that's how you share it with colleagues. And I'm going to go back to my presentation real quick. Each of these are, and I shared again, this bit.ly/forms. It is case sensitive, capital P-O-P, U-P, lowercase u-p, and then 1. And each of these are links to other forms that you can look at. I don't know if they have you make a copy because most of these are Steve's. So we'll see how he set that up. On this, how it works, again, the responses tab, and you can see this if you've copied the bit.ly link. You can see the responses in the forms, like I showed you the summary or the individual, but the spreadsheet is really the easiest way to see it all in one place because I can also sort it, like we mentioned, alphabetically. And then you can look at the, on the Google form by clicking that little eyeball, right? This little, cancel this, done. by clicking on this little eyeball here. That's the preview that will show me what it looks like for students.